You may have at one point or another sat down on a rowing machine and started rowing, and then all of a sudden saw this little graph at the bottom of your rower screen seeing a little line that was making some waves as you rowed. And maybe you weren't quite sure what that was. Well, that's called a force curve, and today we're going to talk about it. What's up guys, Austin back with another rowing video, and in today's video we're going to talk about the force curve, and I'm specifically on a Concept 2 rowing machine. I'm actually not quite sure how many rowing machines have a force curve option, but Concept 2 of course being the most popular rowing machine out there, a lot of people have seen this force curve but don't quite really know what it means. And so today we're going to talk about it, not only about what it is, but how it can help you improve your rowing and get the most ideal stroke depending on what type of rowing effort that you're doing. So if you've been on a Concept 2 rowing machine and you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay, because you might not know that you can change the units on the screen. But if you go to the Just Row option and then at the bottom of the monitor select the Change Display, you'll notice a couple different options are displayed as you go through those options. And one of those options shows you your force curve. Now, essentially what the force curve is it's showing you your power distribution throughout the rowing stroke. It tells you at what points during your stroke are you generating the most power. And so as you row with this chart displayed, you'll notice that every rowing stroke that you take, you'll see some sort of curve that gets drawn with each stroke. Now, to keep things very simple, we'll use the y-axis, the vertical axis. That's the measure of your power. So the more power that you generate, the higher that curve is going to go, whereas the horizontal part of the graph, that is showing you your time. So we have power versus time showing you your distribution of power throughout your rowing stroke. Now, when looking at how your power is distributed throughout the rowing stroke, I like to break the curve down into 3 different parts. That way you can kind of see where your power is distributed during each part of the stroke. So that first part of the rowing stroke being the leg drive, and then the swing with the trunk, the body, the core, whatever you want to call it, and then the pull with the arms at the end. Now, when it comes to generating the ideal curve, and we're talking ideal as far as like sort of continuous, fairly long distance rowing efforts, not really like that short sprint kind of ugly technique that we've covered in the past for like 200 meters or 100 meters or 1-minute rows, for instance. We're talking about long, strong rowing technique, what that ideal curve should look like. And a lot of people think that, yes, most of the power is generated with your legs, but the peak power from the stroke is at the point when your legs get pressed down and you start swinging back. It's that transfer of the leg power through the core that generates the peak power. So when we're looking for the ideal curve for most rowing efforts, we're looking for a bell curve shape. As you press with your legs, the curve starts spiking up, and then as the legs go down and your body starts to swing, that's your peak power, your momentum being transferred back, and then the curve slowly trails off as the arms finish in. So if that's the curve that we're looking for most of our rowing, well, what does your curve look like? Let's talk about how the curves can change based off of maybe where you're emphasizing your power. Now, if we go back to that idea of the curve being divided into 3 sections, we can see at which points sort of our body is tending to emphasize when you're rowing if your technique is not quite on point where it needs to be. For instance, if you're rowing with a weak leg drive, but are having a hard swing with the body and a pull with the arms, really emphasizing the upper body and not quite the lower body, well, you'll start to see that the curve starts off fairly shallow with the leg drive and then spikes up as the body and arms contribute. Whereas if you have a weak leg drive and a body swing back and you're really just emphasizing the arms, well, you'll see that the curve is flatter for a longer period of time, sort of through the legs and body component, and then spikes up for the arm draw. So then you can imagine you can get a double peak variation if you had a strong leg drive to start, then you relax with your body and then pulled in with the arms to finish. And these, of course, are not what we're looking for. Again, we're looking for that bell curve to really emphasize that transfer of momentum with the leg drive, max power through the swing, and then the arms finishing the stroke. Now, the last peak variation that you might see is a huge spike at the very top and then a dying off of power in the very end. And this is sort of the curve that we look for when we're doing these sort of ugly sprint rowing techniques. When we're talking about, short half slide, high stroke rate, really emphasizing all the power from the legs right away, legs right away, legs right away. That's when you're going to see that explosiveness with the legs, the high peak at the start of the graph, and then the gradual dying off of power throughout the body and the arm's contribution. So that's sort of a quick rundown of the different types of curves that you'll see when you look at the force curve. So this is a good opportunity for you to sit down on your Concept 2 and take a look at how your rowing stroke power is distributed. Are you getting that ideal bell curve look that we're looking for most of our rowing efforts? Are you getting the double peaks? Are you getting a flat line and then a spike at the very end because you're all about those arms? Take some time to experiment with the force curve and see where your rowing stroke is at to help you define sort of those key points where you need to change your power emphasis. But I hope that cleared things up. I hope that gave you a little insight into the force curve. I'd love to hear what you guys think down in the comments below. So let me know what you think, and I will see you guys in the next video.